Yousfazai was living like that when she was a child because men named the Taliban disagreed with education and women's rights. But Malala loved education. She is known for being a woman who made speeches for women's rights and education. Malala was born on July 12, 1997 in Swat Valley, Pakistan. By looking at the people, events, and ideas that influenced Malala, we can see that she followed her dreams and left a lasting legacy in the area of education and women's rights. The Taliban had weapons to kill anyone that got in their way. They bombed parts of Pakistan and Swat Valley. Even though Malala and her family were scared to go outside, they still went to school. But every day, there were fewer and fewer people going to school. But eventually, the school was tortured by Taliban. There were words on the walls, the desks were upside down, and everything was messed around. When Malala and her family was gone for some time, their house was robbed. Her house was messy, things were missing. The chickens were just bones, but luckily Malala's hidden books were not stolen. Everyone in Pakistan had sadly an experience of being frightened by the Taliban. Malala still fought over the TV remote with her brothers when they were at home, but Malala was still a good student in class, and she adored playing with her brothers playing games. But they stopped playing when the Taliban were in Pakistan. Her family possessed little money and had many things to pay for, but they were still generous. They placed food on their windowsill for the birds, and they brought poor, homeless, and hungry children and families in their house to give them food. Malala's father had great jobs. He owned 2 schools, one for girls and one for boys. Her father was a teacher, principal, janitor, handyman, accountant, and chief mechanic. Malala's mother was a stay-at-home mother, so the Yousfazai family was not as poor as other families. Malala's experiences were being asked to give speeches for women's rights and education. She experienced at being smart and intelligent too. Sadly, the day had to come when both of the schools had to close down because Malala's family was too nervous for having any students hurt. But on the last day of school, all of the students made speeches, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful way to end school. Malala and a group of friends approached on a bus for a way home from school. Bump, bump, bump went the bus, but suddenly the bus stopped. No one knew what was happening. Then the curtains from the bus opened and a Taliban man was there. He got out his gun and bam! Malala was shot. Malala appeared to be shot in the head. The girls were screaming when they saw Malala pass out with her head and her ear bleeding and her head on her friend's lap. The man tried to quiet the girls down by shooting 2 more bullets at 2 different girls, but it did not work to make them quiet. The other 2 girls were not seriously injured, but Malala was. A helicopter then picked her up and flew straight to a hospital in London. This happened on October 9, 2012. When Malala awoke, she only thought about her family and who was going to pay for her treatment. Luckily, the government would pay for her care. Her family was on the way, and she was not dead. The shot was close to her temple, but it hit a vein that spread to her shoulder, so she could not move her left arm. Nobody would tell her what happened to her. The nurses concentrated on communicating with her. They would make her write on a piece of paper for questions, but they would not answer a certain amount of her questions. In the hospital, Malala was given flowers, get well cards, gifts, and toys. Fortunately, she lived, and she was all better, eventually. She was released from the hospital and lived with her family again. Her family moved to an apartment in Birmingham, England. In her apartment, she writes a diary about the incident with the Taliban. Even after Malala moved to a different location, she still makes speeches to people about women's rights and education. In one of her speeches, she addresses the United Nations for Education for Kids in Pakistan. Malala was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2011. Malala has so many accomplishments in her life so far. They were writing speeches for women's rights and education, winning the Nobel Peace Prize, fighting hard, and being brave in her neighborhood, studying, being confident, and being on TV, the radio, and the newspaper. Malala's legacy is fighting for women's rights, education, being brave, and a woman who won the Nobel Peace Prize. Malala was famous when she was on TV about her incidents, and that is when the world found out who she is.